Most of the theories that we have assume that the world comes in units. When you start, everything is already in chunks. So the theory we have about language say that language consists of shared meanings, common phrases. Well, this is true as far as it goes, but that's because every theory starts with something, and it's most convenient to start with some kind of units. And then you say, well, okay, but what is the meaning of the word and, or but, or if? So the theory of language that we have is actually very bad, and everybody sort of knows that. But the funny thing is, in every field, this is the case. In every field, the theory is really very bad, and the people who know the field know that. That's where it stops. Actually, language and many other things will be understood much better if you start on the other end. If you say, how can an ordinary person come up with all these fresh things? And then look at poetry. How's that even possible? Poetry is impossible, can't happen, according to our theories of language. You know? Metaphors, well, they have to be based on similarities. Okay, so we base the metaphor on the similarity, but guess what? The computer can't read metaphors. And it certainly can't make a metaphor. It can play chess because chess is made out of units, but it cannot write a poem. Language is really quite different from the theories that we have. The first thing to notice about language is yourself talking. Now, this is revolutionary, what I'm saying. It has completely revolutionized philosophy and the theory of language. And what I'm going to say is so obvious that it's really absurd. I'm going to say, observe yourself talking. You have a vague sense of what you want to say, and you open your mouth and the words come out. Isn't that how it is? Where does what you want to say come from? What is this what you want to say? You don't know what you want to say, what that is, but if you don't have it, you can't talk. So you're standing there with two other people, and they're talking, and you have something to say. And you have to wait, because this is civilization, you have to wait until somebody stops, right? So finally, they both stop, and they turn to you, and you forgot what you want to say. Now, what do? Well, you can say something just to get over the embarrassment. That's easy. But if you still want to say what you want to say, you have to say, wait a minute. And you have to go in there and find it, right? That's not a felt sense. It's just the beginnings of it. But it's like, and then when you find it, you say, oh, now I know. And you got it, right? But not in words. You've got it ready to say, right? Because what you want to say is part of your living in the situation. It's part of your living with people, and this is going on. And if you lose track of it, you can't say it. Now, isn't that language? So Einstein writes in his autobiography that he had a feeling for 15 years what the answer had to be. He had a feeling of the special theory of relativity that he made 15 years later. Now, what kind of a feeling is that? It's not a personal, emotional feeling. It's a feeling of physics and mathematics and all the experiments that he knew, and all that whole language of physics was in the feeling. And then the feeling said, I can't speak in those sentences. I cannot speak in those phrases. I cannot say it in those formulae. Something is different here. Do you see what I'm saying? So he didn't have a feeling without physics or without language. He had a feeling without the new language. And you can feel that when you have a feeling without words. I call it, I can feel the language is in pain in there. The language is being stressed, and the language is doing something in there, and it hasn't done it yet. And as you will see from looking at it, we ask you to write a sentence We ask you to underline a word. We ask you then to notice that that word in the public doesn't mean that, what you want it to mean. Why are we sure that it doesn't mean that? Well, we're sure because we insisted that you speak from a felt sense. So what's a felt sense? Well, philosophically this can get very complicated, but a felt sense, if it wants to be spoken and you haven't been able to speak from it, a felt sense has some new way that things are in it. It has some new arrangement in it. It has some new idea in it, something in it which the world doesn't have yet.